Pulling out of the neighborhood on our way to Portland, Maine on the first leg of this epic trip. I'm about to put my Forerunner inside a shipping container and ship it to another continent. Kind of a shallow amount of documentation here. After 18 months of lockdowns and travel bans, on August 1st, 2021, we finally boarded a plane to kick off the Icelandic expedition that we'd been planning since 2019. In that time, the little world that Amanda and I share had changed. We'd moved from California to Kansas City, we'd gotten married, Amanda changed her job, and while I'd been fully prepared to find new work after the move, I'd continued in my same role when the pandemic forced everyone remote. In that respect, it wasn't just our little world that had changed, it was the entire world. Previously, remote work was a rarity, and now nearly everyone I knew was working from home in some capacity. At this point in the pandemic, there was a strong focus on maintaining social distances and masking to the point where even the Brachiosaurus in O'Hare was masked up. But even with the huge changes in our little world, as well as in the big wide world, we'd managed to stay committed to our plan to tour Iceland by 4Runner. As our flight for Reykjavik pushed back from the gate in Chicago, I was already feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment to have made it this far. Maybe the hardest part of the trip was all the planning and logistics just to get to this point. Maybe it'd be smooth sailing from here on out. After a short night in the air, when the sun came through the plane's windows, the view of clouds and ocean soon turned into a mysterious landscape, and we touched down shortly after on the volcanic island. With foggy brains and tired bodies, we headed directly for one of Iceland's most revered destinations, the Blue Lagoon, where we hoped the milky, silica-rich water would bring us back to life a bit after the long plane ride. Icelanders have been using hot baths and steam rooms for hundreds of years as a way to keep an edge during long winter months, as well as to socialize. Full-strength beer wasn't allowed in Iceland until 1989, so thermal pools served as the social meeting place for communities. The Lava restaurant at Blue Lagoon is built right into the landscape, with lava rock forming an entire wall of the restaurant, and floor-to-ceiling glass offers views out onto the bluish waters of the lagoon. The atmosphere gives off strong James Bond villain lair vibes, and I absolutely love it. Dining in a cozy robe and slippers definitely adds to the Dr. No lair vibes. I had a bowl of fish soup that may have been my favorite on the whole trip. While fish soup may sound intimidating to us landlocked folks, or folks that don't eat a lot of fish, it's not fishy, but it is ubiquitous in Iceland and very, very good. It was an amazing first meal to kick off our time in Iceland on a high note. During these first days, we continued to treat ourselves a bit, knowing that our meals would soon consist of things that were cooked on the back bumper of a Forerunner. I love Reykjavik. It's a cozy little city that's easy to get around on foot. It has a really fun vibe. There's lots of hole-in-the-wall places, and the locals have a laid-back approach and strong sense of community and culture. Now, through all this, our visit had been a vacation, really. We treated ourselves a bit and checked out the sights. All the while, in the background, we were trying to get the Forerunner through customs. Eventually, the vacation ground to a halt as we were required to focus on some immediate issues. Each day, we were assured that the Forerunner was nearly through customs and it would be released that day. Eventually, it was deep into the afternoon on Tuesday, and the shipper admitted that it likely wouldn't clear customs until the following day. At that point, we no longer had a hotel booked for the night, which meant that we needed to scramble to find a place to sleep. We managed to find a hotel with a vacancy and hoofed it through the rain with our luggage to the new hotel. The next morning, the shipper had even more news. So yesterday we were supposed to pick up the truck from customs. Maybe we start at the very beginning. So back when we first emailed our shipper, after we got a quote, my second question was, how is insurance handled while it's on the boat, and how is insurance handled while the truck is in Iceland? I said, oh, just tell us the value of the truck. We can arrange insurance for on the boat and in Iceland. So sent them that figure. I guess fast forward across 2020, we restarted that email chain in 2021. Again, got a quote, asked, how do you handle insurance? Got the same answer. Sent over the value of the truck so that they could arrange all of that. And that was back in like May or June, I think. It's now August. And then last week, I was emailing them again, trying to get all of the paperwork straightened out. So filled out this form. I think it's called the E9 form. It's like the tourist import car. So if you import a car for less than a year, you don't have to pay registration fees and import tariffs. And so then in addition to that, I was trying to figure out insurance, of course, again. I would send over the E9 form and say, what about insurance? And get nothing back, and get emails back about the E9 form. Your date can't have slashes in it. We only can accept a dot between the day and the month, but never any answer about insurance. So then finally, yesterday came. We're calling every hour, like trying to get the car out of customs. And they say, yeah, it's going through customs, making progress. And then they finally ask, oh, we need the value of the truck so that we can get it insured. It's like, well, I sent you that 2 years ago. I sent it to you 2 months ago. Sure, I'll send it again. Sent it again. Kept calling back. I think the last time we called back was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they said, we don't think it's going to make it through customs today. They're still working through the insurance paperwork. So then we finally booked a room. Luckily there was a room available same day, but only a block away from where we were staying. Came over here, started calling back again this morning, and the insurance isn't going to be able to, they're not going to be able to provide insurance for us. So after like 2 years of saying, yeah, sure, no problem, we can do insurance for you, as soon as push comes to shove, they can't do it for us. And I had last week arranged a separate third-party insurer, so we could have had this green card insurance arranged with a third party and been able to hand that paperwork over yesterday when they were having trouble with it. And so now I'm calling that third-party insurer, and like, as soon as they can get it done is like 24 hours, which would put us in this hotel again. So it's just a lot of frustration on our part from this shipper being super opaque and nobody knowing the full end-to-end story and saying yes when they really can't. So just trying to work through it. We're going at bureaucracy pace right now and just trying to take it step by step. Hopefully we'll be on the road today. Here's Amanda on our dream adventure vacation. Hello? Okay. Let's see, so the our shipper said they could insure us. They couldn't. Then my backup insurer in, let's see, they're in the Netherlands. I guess she's in Spain now. She had an accident and is in the hospital. So it was going to take her a while to be able to get that form filled out. Called 2 local Icelandic insurers, and they both were asking for like an Icelandic social security number, which we do not have, and told us that they couldn't help us. And then we finally found this German company called Tour Insure, and they've been really good so far. Answering the phone, answering emails really quick, watching the fax machine. So we've gotten, so we filled out some forms, had to run down to the front desk, print them out, take pictures of them, and fax them in because Germany doesn't allow you to send credit card details via email or over the phone. So now all of that stuff is in. Our German insurer is in a meeting right now and says in an hour she should be able to get us our forms. We can take them to the Icelandic customs and free the Forerunner from customs jail.
Fingers crossed.
Did I get all that?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. With our freshly acquired green card insurance, we headed straight for the shipper. After a half hour of tense waiting and reception, we paid our shipping dues and were soon being driven through the port for the moment we had been waiting for. Alright, we're finally reunited with the Forerunner.
We did it!
So, let's see, this morning Amanda found the website for this German expat expert touring insurance. So we got their emailed them, had a phone call with them. I think the longest part of the process was figuring out how to get our credit card information to them because you can't email it or say it over the phone. So once we figured out the faxing using apps on our Apple iPhone devices, that company was able to get us the paperwork in less than an hour. So found that website at 10. I think it's like 1 o'clock now. And we're hitting the road now. Where are we heading?
Costco!
Going to Costco. Amanda shops plenty at Costco at home, so it was entertaining to see all the tiny different nuances of Icelandic Costco. It was fun to check out the familiar rotisserie chicken counter, laid out exactly the same, but all labeled in Icelandic. We made quite a haul here, as we had heard that food items can get expensive out in the more remote areas of Iceland. And you can't go to Costco without getting a hot dog. So here's the aftermath of a Costco trip. Got the drawers pretty well filled up. Dry goods, some soups, chocolate-covered raisins, granolas, breads. Got some croissants, big bag of pasta. Here's all the cold stuff. There's some spinach, fruits. Got some sausage in there, some eggs. Our first real stop was to try to see some volcanic activity that had recently flared up south of Reykjavik. Doing it! We laced up our boots and headed up the observation trail. At the time, my mind was swimming, trying to grasp the novelty of what was going on. Here we were, witnessing one of the most rare and powerful phenomena in nature, on one of the most remote and spectacular countries on Earth. And we drove here in the same car that I used to pick up groceries back home, and it had taken us here. I think it also highlights a unique point in time for the individual traveler. While it wasn't completely straightforward, there were relatively few hurdles to stop us from setting out from our front door and driving to extremely remote places on the globe. Just pulling out of the neighborhood on our way to Portland, Maine on the first leg of this epic trip. I'm about to put my Forerunner inside a shipping container and ship it to another continent. It's an incredible level of freedom when you think about it in the timeline of human mobility. We spent a good while reflecting and taking in the moment, watching the smoke rise at the top of that mountain. Sitting up there marked a huge accomplishment for us. We had fulfilled a goal that many have but few achieve: intercontinental overland travel. And we made it here in spite of setbacks from a global pandemic. In truth, there was another major hurdle that stood in our path that we hadn't anticipated at the outset of our planning: our jobs. We were both planning to leave our jobs as we moved across the country and intended to use that employment gap as a chance to do the craziest thing we could think of: live out of the Forerunner in Iceland all summer. When we told our friends and families and coworkers about that plan, it was common to hear in response, "Wow, I'd love to do a trip like that," followed by some commentary about how they could never do it with their work situation. But here we were, both currently employed full-time. I don't have any life hacks or tips for becoming a full-time traveler. We're just regular people who saved up our vacation time and submitted for the month off. Neither of our employers even batted an eye. And I think it's a strategy that more people could use to go on longer trips. We didn't approach the trip with a passive interest. We approached it with extreme intention. We made getting here part of every day for 2 years. We made getting here a life goal. And I don't say that lightly or in a trite way. I mean, I would have felt that my life was unfulfilled if this trip hadn't happened. A week or two before we flew to Iceland, I was in the shower and thought I felt a bump where I shouldn't feel a bump. My thoughts immediately went to cancer. I thought, there's no way I'll make this trip. I have to start treatment immediately. And black dots started to fill my vision and I felt dizzy, so I leaned into the corner of the shower to steady myself from falling. I was so disappointed, to the point where I was angry that I could be taken from this planet without fulfilling the goal that Amanda and myself had set for each other. That if I could just get to Iceland, I could die with the satisfaction knowing that we'd listened to our hearts and followed our dreams to make the most of this life. I steadied myself as I left the shower and went into the bedroom. I was having a panic attack that I'd be taken from this earth before doing the Iceland expedition with Amanda that we'd sworn our commitment to do. Eventually, I caught my breath, and we determined that the bump and discomfort was unlikely to be cancer and probably just from overtraining for the trip. I'd never had a panic attack before that, and I haven't had one since then. But it shows just how badly, just how much this trip meant to me to be able to do with Amanda. And it took that level of commitment to get here. It was also a striking reminder that tomorrow isn't guaranteed for anyone, and we shouldn't put off our ambitions for another time, because there might not be another time. While we soaked in the moment for a while on top of the summit, we started learning the ropes of trying to capture our adventure on camera and how to be an on-screen personality. We didn't see any live magma erupting, but the day was still a monumental success for us. We started the morning facing a huge challenge, but rallied together to solve the problem. And now we were rewarded with the freedom to explore and to have an adventure here in the comfort and familiarity of a vehicle that we had designed and built for this exact purpose. We had 4 wheels and no place to be for weeks. Coming back to the truck from watching the volcano, it suddenly clicked that we were on our own to find a place to sleep that night at the start of our new adventure. So we headed north to search for our first campsite. Unfortunately for us, a close wildlife encounter at the campsite meant we wouldn't get much sleep during that first night in the tent.